in life, we can choose the pressured way, which is when we're sort of white knuckling. It's us against the problem. It's us against the spreadsheet. It's more rigid, trying to control. And the playful way is when we come at something with a spirit of creative collaboration with whatever's in front of us. It's open, it's exploratory, it's looking at things from different angles. It helps to open us up to more possibility.
Hello, welcome back to the Active Ingredient Podcast. This episode is such a good one that I feel like is going to resonate with so many of you. It is with a recurring guest. This is her second time on Active Ingredient, and it's someone that I really admire and respect on their career path and just how they build and how they connect with human beings as they build. We have Piera Gelardi on the show. She is a creative entrepreneur, an artist, now an author of the book, The Playful Way, that just came out. That's what we're here talking about on this week's episode. And she is the co-founder of Refinery 29 and 29 Rooms. She was the creative director as well. And now is fully channeling all of her creative energy towards writing books and teaching workshops and speaking all around the topic of play. And play is something that I feel we have definitely talked about on the show a ton, but it still feels like something that is undervalued. We see it as something that we get to do after we do the serious thing, or we give ourselves permission to play only after we've hit certain goals. And I feel like this conversation and just this, it's a reminder really, because we really are all playful innately. It's in our nature to be playful. And this conversation in her book and her work is a constant reminder of the importance of play. And that if you're coming from a place of playfulness, what you're creating is actually more impactful. It's really cool to have seen the process of this book being a seedling of an idea. If you go back to the episode that we did in September of 2022, we're talking about this exact concept. And she was already starting to have the process of thinking of the book. She might have already been actually starting to write the book. So to be here now, having this conversation with the product in hand, the book in hand, it's just amazing to see it here, you know? And the point really is to bring us back, to remind us of our playful nature. It's who we are at our core. It's that we forget because of the way that we're programmed to be in certain rooms, the way that certain corporate cultures act. So yeah, in this conversation, we're talking about play as not an afterthought, as something to consider bringing your front and center in your day-to-day life. We talk about all the ways that we forget playfulness. We talk about visibility, which, as you know, this season is a very big theme that has been coming up in every conversation. We're talking about visibility in writing this book. We're talking about visibility in just showing up as a leader right now in the space. What else did we talk about? Oh my God, so many things. I feel like there's just so many amazing takeaways. My biggest one is, this was just something that I needed to hear so badly, is cringe and coolness. And like, the times when we feel like we need to be cool in order to fit in are really just not our people. And that it does take doing some cringy ass things to explore that playful side, and that will actually attract people that are more like you. I needed that reminder because there's so many times when you just like, it's safer, quote unquote, to be the cool person, you know, understated and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, oh God, I'm bored. I'm bored of that. And it's just like the reminder of being cringe, being part of the process is cool. And I love that. So yeah, so many amazing topics. I'm so grateful to her for doing the inner work. To me, it's so clear how much inner work it's taken her to actually do it, to write it, to produce it, to put it out in the world, to promote it. And I'm just so, I'm really expanded, inspired, and grateful. So with that, Piera, thank you so much for being here for the second time, hopefully second of many. And I hope that you enjoy this episode. Let's show the book. You know how full circle this is, considering your first Active Ingredient conversation / what we've been talking about since we've met. This is so crazy that it's here. I mean, it's crazy and it's not, but like, wow. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. To be honest, I was feeling super anxious before the book came out, and my I call her my hole poker. It's like my perfectionist brain that's just like, did you think of this? Did you think of this? What about that? And so she was on a tear. She was tormenting me with all the things like, why did you do it this way? Why didn't you do it that way? Like all these things,
Yeah.
I think sometimes we don't talk enough about how hard it is to actually close a creative project. And
Wait, say more. I got chills and I feel like we need to double click there. But let's give context on how many years this has been in the works.
yes, so I've been working on this book in I guess in one way or another for the last 5 years. So first didn't know I was writing a book, but I was developing this philosophy. I was leading people in play, which started on Zoom. I was doing all these play workshops and dance workshops on Zoom. So I was doing dancercism. That was the
That's a
dance.
good
And then I
name.
was doing play breaks. Those were the multiple different kind of creative expression workshops, play shops. So I was leading people, it started with leading people in play on Zoom as a gift of joy when I was in transition from my past life as founder and creative director of Refinery 29. So as I was in this huge moment of transition where I was also a new mom, I was, navigating the middle end of the pandemic, this huge career transition. I decided that I was going to lead people in this joyful, cathartic play as a gift of joy. And so I was doing that on Zoom for about a year, teaching 3 times a week. And then when the world opened up, I transitioned that into trying to connect people through creativity and play. As the world was opening and we were facing loneliness, I was going into the parks and the subway and hosting these public events and helping people to connect through creativity and play, doing some wild, some wild things.
I love the subway content. It's so good.
Highly cringy, and I say that with the most utmost love, things. And then, so I was doing that, and then basically through all of those things, I realized I had developed this philosophy of how do we get adults to open up and play and tap into their creativity, connection, and joy.
Mhm.
And I was having lunch with my friend Aziz, and I wasn't sure exactly what the next step in my journey was going to be. And he said, why don't you put your philosophy into a book? And so I rode a city bike home and I started writing my book proposal. I was like, why not?
How long ago was that?
It was the spring of 2023, so 3 years ago. Yeah.
There's so many directions that I want to go into this, and I want you to hold me accountable to hitting on this because I want to hit on cringe. I want to hit on closing creative chapters for sure. And I want to hit on the process of writing a book. Play is one of those things that, I mean, it's so central to Active Ingredient because I really believe that the whole process of being in your most alive version is going back to that childlike creative version of yourself. And a lot of those hints are from what you were little and like what did you play as, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like, and I guess this goes into the cringe of it all, how have you gotten people that are so straight edge? And I know that there's a whole chapter on unzipping the suit and people that are really seeing it as a frivolous thing. How has that been met?
So what's interesting is that a lot of people will tell me that they're not playful or they'll express skepticism. But often when I'm met with that, I get really curious and I start asking them a lot of questions, and almost without fail, I find something that is actually playful about them. Almost without fail, I'm able to help them to express that this is something that they do want and yearn for in their life. It's such an intrinsic part of being human, and it really is what brings us alive, what makes us feel connected to ourselves, each other, and the world. So even the biggest skeptics, often there's a glimmer of desire for playfulness.
What
And
questions are you asking them?
so I usually ask people about, sometimes I'll ask what they like doing as a kid, what made them lose time, what were they obsessed with as a kid. Sometimes I will talk to them about the different powers of play. So often people think of being playful as being a joyful gesture. So they think that it is being silly and bringing a lot of levity into life. And that is one power of play, but there's in the book 8 different powers of play. Some people are more of a curious quester, so there are people that bring a lot of intellectual curiosity. They go down rabbit holes of questions. They're experimental thinkers. So that's often a little bit of a quieter, less exuberant, big form of playfulness. So I'll start to dig into getting to
Yeah.
the person and figuring out what qualities they exhibit and talking to them about that. The other thing is that I often talk to people about the science and the benefits of playfulness. And I think, we are conditioned to believe that play is frivolous, that it's, you work hard, then you get to play hard, or that play is something that you do in those kind of timeout, recess type of moments of life. But in the book, what I argue and what I've experienced is that when we weave playfulness into our day-to-day lives in the small moments, that's when we reap the most rewards, and that's when we're actually able to unlock the benefits that it brings, for emotional regulation, for flexibility, for responding to challenges without getting stuck in rigidity and overwhelm.
People that you feel have resistance, what are they afraid will happen if they play?
So in the book, I have what I call the anti-play posse. So those are the voices that
I
tell.
love all the names that you have for things.
I really had a lot of fun. I love naming, so
Mhm.
you will see, you will see that in my book.
Love.
I had a field day with naming. But yeah,
I love the 8 names of the 8 powers, by the way. So good.
I want to dig into what your powers of play are.
I feel like I align with a lot of them. There's very few I don't. But I do want to know what the answer is to someone, because what I have heard, or when I'm having conversations with certain people, is that it feels like it's so counter to how, if you're having a really hard time or going through a really tough season, it feels so counter for like your knee-jerk reaction to be to play. It feels like the only way out is to, if you're going through financial troubles, like get into the weeds of my spreadsheet and figure it out practically. Practical is like a big flag word, you know? What are people afraid of if their first reaction is play? If they just like trip up their system and go play first? What are they scared of?
So one, I think we think of play as, like you're saying, something that is something you go and do.
Mm-hmm.
In my in and that is important. It's important to take the dance class. It's important to take yourself on a play date and go do those things. And it helps us to refill our cup. It helps us to have a new mindset to come back to the problem with. But in the book, I talk more about playfulness as a mindset. The core way I think about it is that in life we can choose the pressured way, which is when we're sort of white knuckling. It's us against the problem. It's us against the spreadsheet. It's more adversarial. It's more rigid, trying to control. And the playful way is when we come at something with a spirit of creative collaboration with whatever's in front of us. So it's open, it's exploratory, it's looking at things from different angles. It helps to open us up to more possibility. It helps us with emotional regulation and with problem solving. So it's actually super practical, but we think of it as being frivolous or this timeout. But it's really about the mindset and how you approach something, versus that the idea that you have to go off and play. So that's part of why I wanted to write this book, was because I think play is really misunderstood, and I wanted to show how you can weave it into the small moments of life as a mindset that helps us in so many ways. But I think you're right, like practical is a big one. I think a lot of the voices that told us not to play get lodged in there. You think about the strict teacher, you think about the authority figure that's telling you to be a responsible adult. You think about that perfectionist voice. So often the voices that we hear are telling us to be productive, to be efficient, to get it right. And also there's also like sort of that cool police, right? The person, the voice that's trying to keep you safe from social ridicule and tells you not to be cringe. And then sometimes there's kind of like the wounded watch out, which is like maybe you've been hurt before by being vulnerable and opening yourself up, so it wants to protect you from that happening again. So all of the voices that we hear that tell us not to play, you know, they're trying to protect us from something. So I think it's important to talk back to them compassionately, because there is a reason that we hear these things, and it is connected a lot to self-protection, but also to our conditioning and these voices that we've heard. So once we're able to understand that being playful has all these benefits and that it actually is going to make us more resourced to handle the challenges of life and to roll with them. I think about it as like bending, not breaking. Play helps us to bend and not break. And probably the times that playfulness has been the most helpful to me in my life have been some of the hardest times, going
Yeah.
through grief, going through recognizing that I was deeply burnt out from being overworked and underplayed.
I
These
love that line.
yeah, these were the moments when playfulness and leaning into that mindset of curiosity, creativity, courage, exploration with the world. Once I got into that, it helped me so much in these like really, really tough moments in my life.
Yeah. I want to touch on burnout
Yeah.
because now knowing what you know, like if this version of Piero was in that environment, knowing the importance of play, is there a world where you could have not lost the playfulness in that? And then would that still have felt overworked? I feel like if you're doing something with playful energy, you actually have so much more battery in you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if this version was doing that, how would that feel?
So, when I got the most burnt out was actually I grew up really playfully. I did have those strict teachers and those authority figures that tried to, get me to stop playing, to be serious, zip up the spirit suit. That playfulness really got me far in my career. And when I was starting Refinery 29, that the experimental mindset, the curiosity, the creativity, was what got us to grow and to connect with our audience and to be flexible and pliable enough to keep shifting and finding our way, which is so important when you're starting a business. But then we got to this point into the company where we were having all this success and we were hiring people from these more corporate backgrounds. And once those people started coming in, they're using all this jargon, they're saying these business terms that I don't know, and they are rubbing against my playfulness. They don't understand it, they're skeptical of it. And so I started to feel like the way that I was operating wasn't a fit for where the stage the company was at. They were bringing in these very experienced people, so I need to be more like them. And so I started to pack away these playful qualities. I stopped asking questions in meetings because I didn't want to appear to not know. I stopped cracking jokes because I didn't want to seem unserious. There were all these ways that I was just dimming that playfulness. What happened was I found myself laying on my apartment floor crying about what a failure I was at what from the outside would have looked like a peak moment in my career. And it was this moment where I realized that I was overworked and underplayed, and that having packed up all these qualities meant that I had lost a lot of the intrinsic motivation that I had in my job, like the joy that I found in the everyday. It had stopped me from learning because I was not asking questions and I was trying to, get it right and appear to know. And all of those things were keeping me from actually learning and growing. And so I was really lucky to be working with a coach at the time. And I talked to her and she was able to say, hey, look, why do you think that the person and all of the qualities that she had that got you to this point, why do you think that you have to become a different why do you think you have to become a different person to get to the next point? Don't you think that the qualities that you have that got you here can be your superpowers to get you to the next stage? And that was really like wow for me. And it was a moment where I said, okay, I'm gonna try and lean into these things and see what happens. I'll try it and see. And so I started, asking questions in meetings again. I started bringing back that sort of jovial personality. I started bringing movement breaks into my brainstorms and just really leaning into that playful spirit. And what I saw was that not only did it help bring me back to myself, but it also really helped me to connect with people in the company. When I was asking these questions in meetings, people would come up to me and say, "Thank you for asking. I had no idea what the person was saying." It was not only helping me, but it was actually opening up the whole
Yeah.
environment for more learning, for more joy, for more connection, for more creativity. And so that was really powerful, and it made me realize that the two things don't have to be, serious work and playfulness aren't separate.
Hmm.
From the National Institute of Play says that the opposite of play isn't work, it's depression.
And
So
they say the inverse to the opposite of depression isn't happiness, it's creativity. If you channel that into creativity, it's the antidote to depression.
yeah. So I think often we think, I mean, I it's not that I completely avoided ever being burnt out again. I mean, I was working my ass off for 15 years, so you know,
Right.
there's a toll that comes from that
Yeah.
level. I was traveling almost every week, and there was a lot. So
Yeah.
it didn't completely save me from burnout, but it did return to me that intrinsic motivation, the joy in the day to day, that feeling of aliveness. And after that point where I reintegrated my playfulness, I saw so many really big things happen in my career. We launched 29 rooms after that period.
There, by the way, we didn't know each other then, but I was like, this is so cool. Like you have to be a person tapped into your play to create something like that. It's never been done before.
Yeah. So I really saw that. And I think often we look at burnout and we think it's just because we're working too hard, but there's also from the National Institute of Play, there's this idea of play deprivation, which is that when we lack play, even in adulthood, for long periods, it leads to burnout, rigidity, diminished well-being, more anxiety, pessimism. And it makes us have a much harder time adapting to change.
Mm.
So that is I think a lot of people who are burnt out would really benefit from looking at playfulness and looking at play and thinking about how they can integrate it into their day to day and into their work.
What are like practical ways? Because I'm thinking of the person who works at a company. People really separate themselves. It's like severance. You know what I mean? It's like they really are split personalities at work. What's a way to actually integrate that that's not going to feel so scary to them at first?
Yeah. So I do think in a lot of workplaces too, I mean, there's play privilege. A lot of places it's not encouraged. There's not the psychological safety. The paradox is that play requires psychological safety,
Oh, that's so true.
and the more we play together, the more psychological safety we create.
Can you say it again, actually?
Play requires psychological safety, and the more we play together, the more psychological safety we create. So the leader really has to go first. If you're a leader, you need to model playfulness, and that there's multiple powers of play. So it doesn't mean you have to become that joyful jester that's cracking jokes if that's not your natural play style. That's not how you feel comfortable in the office. That's okay, but you can lean into curiosity, you can lean into imagination, you can lean into physical movement, you can lean into humor and levity. There's multiple different expressions of playfulness, but it is important as a leader to model that because we think of play as frivolous, but it truly takes guts. It is such a courageous thing because it requires vulnerability. We're showing our true self, our true spirit. And so we need leaders to go first and to really model what a playful workplace looks like, and to recognize also to notice if they are actually shutting down play
Mm.
and why that might be and how they could actually look at nurturing it. One small other way that I think is great to integrate it. So there's this artist who I love, Karita Kent. She was a nun, a teacher, and a radical artist in the 60s.
I need to stalk
And
her
uh,
immediately.
she's amazing, Sister.
That one liner.
Yeah, she's great. And so she had this idea of when work and play are one, she calls it plork. Which like immediately you're laughing, right? Immediately you feel lighter to think about.
Lord.
Yeah, when work and play are one, it's plork. So often when I go into companies and I do play workshops, I talk to, first we dig into what different people's powers of play are so that people are able to kind of lean into those. But then we think about, okay, how can we plork? What are the small ways that you can integrate playfulness into the day to day? So that could be, color coding a spreadsheet. It could be renaming a meeting with a fun name so it feels less intimidating on the calendar. It could be doing a 1 minute movement break at the beginning of a meeting. It could be coming into the meeting with a curiosity question. So there's all these different ways. And so it's always so fun when I go into companies and do this with employees because the ideas that they come up with are so alive. One of the big companies that I went into has a Plork Slack channel now where they weekly share ideas for how to Plork. Yeah.
So as a leader, and for leaders that are listening to this episode, where's the line for you on having that playful nature and still wanting respect? Having both, where it's like, yeah, we're going to play and we're going to have this meeting and I'm going to be joyful and whichever one of your playful powers you're doing. And I still expect XYZ.
Yeah, I think respect is an interesting word. I think respect is a very rigid word. I think to me, it has an energy of hierarchy. So I guess I would interrogate, what does it mean to be respected?
I guess to me, it means and I hear it in the energy of how I'm saying it too, because I have been in this exact situation where I've worked with people that it's very playful and then things don't get done. And I'm like, I feel like they're seeing me as their friend, and I am. And there are things that we have to get done that are part of what our scope is, that are part of what we signed up to do. It's part of what we both agreed to do. And so when that doesn't happen, and I have been coming from this place of play, I'm like, if I had more of a boundary there, would this actually have gotten done more efficiently? You know, like I see them in other settings doing it with people that are not as playful. And so my mind goes, well, is it because I'm being friendly, you know?
Yeah, I've had that thought before, but I don't think that that's true. Well, it's not that I don't think it's true. It's just that I think that we're conditioned to believe that you have to be a hard ass to get things done. And if you are friendly and you're flexible, then people are going to walk all over you, right? And I think that's a very binary and very hierarchical looking at life. And I think that I've seen in my leadership that the best work has come from the relationships that are ones where I am flexible with the person. I know them as a person. We are playful together. And I think that the deepest respect too comes from actually knowing someone. And you don't know someone if you're not playful with them. Those are the places where you actually see someone's spirit, you actually connect on this deeper human level. So I have seen that the best work gets done when we have those moments with each other because it creates a psychological safety. I think it's always about the pairing, right? Like it's not just a free for all. I don't mean like, yeah, do whatever, like run, just run free and make a mess. Creativity loves constraints and play loves rules, actually. So you have to balance the communication on what needs to get done. I think about it sometimes as a parent too. It's like my daughter has to brush her teeth at night, but how we do it and the energy we bring to it are negotiable. So I think work is the same way. What do we have to get done? What's the non-negotiable? And then everything else is in play, right? So I think when you can communicate that you have these expectations, these deliverables, but you're really open to how it gets done. Sometimes that means where the person wants to work, if they have better creative ideas in a cafe, or if they love to explore and throw a ton of weird ideas out first, you're just gonna let that happen because you trust that that's the process, right? So to me, that's the combo. What are the boundaries? What are the guardrails? And then within that, how do you actually give people the room to bring that creative energy to it?
How are you practically doing that with team members, for example, of setting those rules ahead of time? Because to me, I'm like, if I could just do that, and maybe you have to consistently do it and have reminders or something. If you can just do that and everybody's on the same page from the beginning, then yeah, it gives you the freedom to be playful and hoping that they're actually going to do the thing that you set those rules for. Are you doing that once? Are you doing that weekly?
No.
Are you doing that daily? Like, how are you doing it so you're setting the framework so that things get done and then they can play from there?
Yeah, I've found as a leader that you have to say things at least 8 times for anyone to hear you. Um,
8. That's interesting. You like the number 8.
it's my specific, I guess so. It's my just I don't know why, but I think I got 8 because I was doing this monthly meeting and I was saying the same thing. I was repeating myself every month, and I was starting to think like they must be like, okay, Pierre, we get it, we get it, we get it. And then it was in the eighth month that several people came up and like were like, wow, I thought that was really interesting. That really stuck with me.
You're like, I've been saying this
You've been
forever.
here this whole time. So that's why I got it stuck in my head. But I definitely have found that repetition is really, really important. Repeating what's important, what's expected, and also repeating the values of it. So if playfulness is something that you do think is important, also expressing that repeatedly. It's not about that one time bringing in the improv person to the offsite and then now, ta-da, you're like have a playful company. It has to be a practice. It has to be ritualized. It has to be repeated and brought into multiple touch points for it to actually become part of the culture and part of the philosophy and the day to day.
Love that. I love that. I'm curious. I actually want to go back and listen to your first active ingredient episode and see what you answered here. But I'm curious where you come alive the most. Like when you're doing this or how you're doing this, or there's so many ways because you're clearly a practitioner of this. But when you think of, I will be coming alive in this environment or in this doing or being, what is that for you?
Two things. One, I come alive the most when I'm leading people in play.
Mm.
I come alive when I'm with people and I'm helping them to bring out their playfulness, bring out their creativity, really in any form, whether we're drawing, whether we're moving, whether we're writing. I just come alive and leading people in play.
What is it? What is it about it?
It's the improvisational nature of leading and teaching and being in the moment with people that I find very alive. Like because you have to. It's your yes and with their energy, right? Like you're fully present. You're noticing how someone responds, or you're picking up on something someone says and cracking a joke or building on it. So I just
Yeah.
I'm so present, and I love creating that space, and I love seeing what happens when you give people permission to play. I just find it so fucking beautiful.
I have to say, and I'm so excited to hear your second one, but being in your play practice that we did at Sage and Sound, do you remember that one?
Of course.
I think about that all the time. Like you were so alive. And the feeling that I had from being in that room was insane. Like I still have pictures on my phone from that day of me drawing the girl next to me and the girl drawing me back. And that visualization that we did to that song, I just want to reflect back to you being in the room with you doing it and facilitating it 1000%. I was like, she's in her sauce. Like she's in her sauce. And when you're in your sauce, then everybody's sauce like flickers
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so that's one.
I definitely feel very aligned and alive when I'm leading people in play and creativity. And then I feel incredibly aligned and alive whenever I'm dancing. Um, yeah. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. And I dance when I'm happy, I dance when I'm sad, I dance when I'm anxious, I dance when I'm stuck, and like it's it's good for everything. It is for me the highest form of medicine is dance.
I feel like in both of those things, it just, you're so present with your body. And then in your practices, it's like, it's just presence. It's like the form of presence that you connect with most is really what it is.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, it is actually all these play forms really do come down to presence, right?
Like if
Like
you really boil it down.
humor is so much like being in that moment, catching that little nuance
Yeah.
from it. Yeah, wonder is about being tuned into the world around you and noticing these details that you need to be present for. Movement is about being in your body, being with the music. All these play forms do help us to be present, and that's why they help us to feel so much more alive.
Present and aliveness equals pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, creativity that's just flowing out of you, and it's so much also about trust, right? You can't be in a pressured state and improv because you have to be open, you have to be receptive, you have to be curious and just like with it.
Yeah.
And so I think that pressured state that we get into, we're clenched, we're trying to control. It's very heady, right? If pressure is like a clenched fist, play is like being an inflated balloon. A state of playfulness, you're inflating. And actually, to get to playfulness from that pressured state, I recommend that people pause. They activate their play power, lighten. You have to take a breath, or you have to shake it off to get
Hmm.
there.
Like it makes me want to do it right now.
Yeah, it's like, wait, no, I can't spell play. It's pause, lighten, activate your play power, and then you say yes, and you're like, okay, let's do this.
I love that. How do you notice within yourself when you're disconnected from play? Like, what are some signs that you're like, ooh, I feel a little
One
disconnected?
thing I notice is like, yeah, am I in the pressured state or the playful state? And that pressured state it's first of all, it's often physical. You feel tight, you feel like your jaw is clenched or your shoulders are up. It's also like tends to be, yeah, like you feel like you're fighting.
Mm.
So I notice that first, and then I try and like go through that sort of process of like pausing, and pausing is also like, I'll say I'll be like, oh, I'm in the pressured state. So
How do you not judge yourself there? Because it's like you already know what it feels like to feel so amazing and open and alive and playful. And it's so human. Like we're always going to oscillate between both of those, you know? And you can also use the clenched part and like alchemize that into even more beauty. But how, when you're in there and you catch it, how are you not judging yourself for being there?
it's just it's a natural place that we all get to. I think we're conditioned to go to that place. So I find it just helpful to name it without judging it and say, oh, I'm in the pressured state. Now I'm going to lighten, take a deep breath. Or for me, it's often I take a shake break. I take 1 minute and just like truly.
I did it. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? My neighbor, I didn't realize, was sitting outside, and I was like, this guy probably thinks I am the biggest freak of nature. Like, I'm alone in the house,
Right.
middle of the day, just dancing my heart out. But
Right.
yeah, shake is a good one.
Yeah.
So you're not judging yourself when you're in there.
No, I mean, I go into the pressured state. Sometimes I'll laugh, that's another way to lighten is like, oh, wow, my taking myself too seriously moment is here.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's like pausing, lightening, activating that play power. So figuring out what playful spirit can I bring here. Maybe this is something you don't want to be happening, but it's happening, and we're accepting it, and we're yes-anding it, and bringing that playful creative spirit to it. The way I define playfulness is being curiously, creatively, courageously connected to life. It's really about this mindset that you're approaching life with. You are the collaborator with life.
I love that. I love that. What I was going to say actually is the courage of it all. I feel like a theme that in relaunching the podcast and in just a lot of conversations that I'm having is this theme of visibility. And when you're playing, like you said, you're in a vulnerable state. I mean, you're showing your real self and you're really putting it all out there. And you've just written a book on this topic. So it's like double wham. You're literally putting yourself out there, talking about something that is very true to you. And the whole thing is about all of our truth, which is play. What has that process been like? You said that there was like a lot of noise, like she was loud in the beginning or in the beginning of the book tour. What has that process been like to be working alongside that fear? I don't know if you have a fear of being seen. A lot of creatives do. Um, yeah, and for people that are afraid of being seen in play. So two-part question, like how have you been navigating the fear of being seen, visibility in general, and then separately people's fear of being seen in their play?
So, yeah, I definitely have a fear of being seen. I navigate it by reminding myself that there's this Martha Graham quote that I love that is about, I think it's Martha Graham. It's a quote about basically about how each of us has a unique energy and a unique imprint and a unique way of seeing the world. And if you block it, then that is lost to humanity. It's lost to the universe. And so it's our vitality, right? It's our life force. And so I think about it like that. And so many people, the regrets of the dying, people regret what they didn't do so much more than what they did do. And so I think about those two things a lot. And I think about what will Piera, who's 90, think? Will she be so glad that I didn't do this thing because maybe I protected myself from someone saying something bad about me? Or will she be so glad that I was courageous enough to put myself out there, to put my ideas out there? And the other thing I think about a lot is the fact that routinely, when I am courageous enough to share myself, my ideas with the world, there's always something so beautiful that comes back, right? Even if it's one person that it resonates with, it is so poignant to me, and I'm so motivated by impact. So as I was getting really scared and I was having this internal, voices saying like, why did you do this? Go hide. Kind of centered myself in the fact that, you know what, Piera, when this is in the world and people are texting you and DMing you and telling you that they are doing these practices, they're telling you that this helped them with something in their life, they're using your ideas and your language in their daily life, that is going to be so satisfying to you that it's going to be worth the risk of visibility. It's going to be worth the risk of criticism.
So those are your fears, is criticism? That's the secondary fear of visibility? If you're seen, then what?
Yeah, I have a fear of criticism. I think a deeper fear is a fear of hurting people. So I'm worried that, if I get something, that like something might not, you know, not that it might not resonate, but that it might feel hurtful to someone because I, am coming from I don't know. Like, I think that's like the big, like something that I worry about is like,
That your work could hurt someone?
yeah,
That's so interesting. That is so interesting because I hear you and I'm like, but what was the intent?
right.
Because like with anything, somebody could say something that could potentially be damaging, but it's like with whatever intent it was created, that's all you can control, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't control how something lands with someone. And
Right.
even sometimes, like, yeah, something you would not expect. I was reading about a memoirist who really didn't want to write. They thought that writing about this one person in their life would hurt them to say what happened. And so they didn't include the person who wrote, and then the person was hurt by not being included. So we can't control how our work or how our lives
Right.
or the things that we do, we can't actually control the impact of them. We can only control the intention and the thought behind them. So that's what I try and be, I try to be thoughtful and intentional, and then I have to release the desire to control that outcome and the fear of, that it might not land the way I want it to.
Yeah. My yoga teacher told me this once and it really, really landed. And I'm sure a lot of people have said it in different ways, but that what people think about you is none of your business
Yeah.
because everything is a mirror. And it's like you could have, all you can control is the intent. So it's like if you really are coming from that truth and you're really doing this because it moved something in you and it's your contribution. Is that what it says on that?
No, so I write these notes to myself. Part of how I get through, yeah, like fears. So I think I was really worried at this point about the book being good enough. So I wrote Sweet Pea. That's my childhood nickname. So I write to myself as Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea, being good is not your business. Your business, what's vital, is that you express, express, express what's alive in you, what's honest to your experience, and that you do so generously. Your business is having fun, creating a channel for energy and enchantment and beauty to flow throughout you and out into the world. Everything else is misdirection. Flow, babe. XOP.
I need you to know that I'm gonna need to shave my legs all over again because I have full body chills. Like I have a full, like I literally am gonna need to shave my legs like right after this. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that.
You're welcome to you and your legs.
No, like actually, like what I'm feeling here is like, something concerning. Yeah, man, it's just so many people are moving through that, and I do feel like, what do you think it is? Is it because sometimes I feel like when something is so true and so powerful and potent, we know on some level that it will be seen by so many people. Like we just know. And so like, oh God, it really is just you versus you, or just you and you, not verse, but like it's just you
Yeah.
and you.
Yeah. It's you.
Because no one really is telling you that other than yourself,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's why I write these notes to myself. It's like other than dancing, it's the most helpful practice that I
I love
have.
that. Do you do that every day?
I don't do it daily, but I do it when I'm feeling funky or I'm feeling like, especially if I need to get into my day and there's something that I'm sitting with that's like nagging on me or I'm ruminating about, then I write these notes to myself and I find it so helpful to
Mm.
like, it's kind of like putting the fear, putting the doubt, putting whatever it is like into a container, and I give myself the advice that I would give my best friend or my higher, it's like advice from my higher self, I guess. But so often we give better advice to other people. So
Totally.
it's writing it as though I'm giving myself advice, except it's what is it, third person?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Sweet pea is very cute.
Yeah.
So the second part of the question was for people that are afraid of being seen in their playful state because it's just so vulnerable. That's the whole cringe of it all. We do live in a world where you kind of do. I feel like cringe is only for a short period of time because as soon as you integrate and embody it, when you don't feel cringe about it, other people don't really feel that cringe about it either. You know?
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Because I do think that in the beginning reps of you showing yourself, it might be par for the course to feel cringy.
Yeah. Okay, well, I actually have this page open in my book. So the cool police says, "Ugh, you're so cringe. No one's gonna take you seriously. Just blend in and be cool, okay?" And your response is, "I get that standing out seems risky, but constantly performing cool is exhausting. The people I actually want in my life value authenticity. I'd rather be free than cool." So I think
I'd
it
rather be free than cool.
I'd rather be free than cool. When you're focused on being cool and not standing out, you're blocking your life force. And that has a toll on your body. That has a toll on your mind. That has a toll on your spirit. And so I think start small. I think with everything that I talk about in the book, like start small. Find your wiggle room. Who's your person that you can express your playfulness with? Maybe dial it up with them. Invite them on a play date. Do something a little bit more audacious with that person so you can flex those muscles, feel more comfortable in a place with a person that you feel comfortable. So finding the pockets, like the wiggle room in your life, the pockets of your life where play feels safer, I think is the best place to start versus like, I'm not saying like go busk in the subway immediately as your entry point. Have done it.
You sing?
No, not exactly. Not for money, but I've like gone and done like weird shit in the
I think
subway.
it's so brave. I think that and comedy is just so brave.
Yeah.
Truly. I feel like you probably have such attunement to people who are play practitioners or who really genuinely are in that state often. Because a lot of people that listen to the show are a lot of founders, a lot of leaders. And I think that it's really inspiring when you see the outcomes of play. Are there leaders that you see in the space right now that you're like, yeah, they're actually very much leading in play that inspire you in terms of the benefits that are coming from that?
Yeah, I mean, so my friend, I think you know Mesa too from
Hmm.
so she's a founder, has a candy company, and I actually have her story in the book, but she was really focused on the numbers and also on this idea of this kind of perfectionist idea of wanting to project having her shit together. And she was having this issue with her formula, with the recipe for the candy. And at first, she was just adamant about pushing it out regardless and so fixated on the numbers and trying to get it quote unquote right. And she was burnt out. She was having all of these issues, and the product wasn't landing with customers. And it was when she chose to be playful, to lean into this more experimental spirit, that she suddenly was able to actually listen to customers, actually hear that the recipe was not good, and then went into experimentation mode, found ways to make it so much better. And it's funny because it's a candy brand. If you look at the packaging, it's so
Right.
colorful, playful, and it has been even when she was in that like rigid, pressured mode. But she's just seen the company take leaps and bounds from embracing that playfulness, and it actually like you were saying before, we think of play as this timeout or this unimportant thing, but she was facing a real crisis in her company, and the pressured way of trying to control and trying to be right actually kept her from unlocking the solutions. It kept her from being open-minded enough to see what wasn't working. So I love her story because now she's fully embracing playfulness in the product and her content, and also the way that she's approached her TikTok content has been very
She's so
experimental,
funny.
very playful, very funny.
She's hilarious.
So yeah, so
Love her.
she's definitely one of my, a leader and an entrepreneur that I really love, especially because she started in this pressured state and actually had this huge transformation in herself, in her spirituality, and in her business through embracing playfulness.
What a great answer. I need to catch up with her. 1,000%.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with this book, what is the intent? What is the thing that you're hoping that people take from it? Like, why is someone reading this?
So my goal is
Big question.
Yeah, my goal is to create play ripples. I think I told you this story the last time I was on the podcast, but when I was thinking about writing this book, our mutual friend Sophia suggested I look for a sign from the universe. And so I wasn't sure if I should dedicate this next stage of my career to playfulness, because I thought, paradoxically, I was worried I was not going to be taken seriously. It wasn't important enough work. And she said, look for a sign for the universe. I went for a walk in Cologne, Germany, was wandering. It was kind of a gray day. I wasn't finding the sign. Finally, I got to the end of the walk and I was about to turn around, and I went down to the water's edge just as the sun came out, and I heard a clinking noise, and I looked down, and at my feet was a message in a bottle. And in the bottle was a note from this 7-year-old boy, Eliano, and he talked about his love of Spielen, which is German for play. And so got my sign. I was like, if this
You
is
did not say that story. I was thinking that was not the story you said on the last one. The last one was about the pink flamingo. That is insane. That is what?
I will tell you that there was the third message in a bottle I've found in my life.
There's something there.
Sign accepted.
Heard.
Yeah, but what really struck me was when I got in touch with the family who had launched the bottle that landed at my feet when I was looking for a sign. Their intention for sending it was that it was part of a series of creative projects they did during the pandemic to connect them to other people through creativity. So now I'm crying.
No, and I'm gonna need to braid my leg hairs at the end of this thing, because the way that you're making my body feel right now is crazy. That's crazy.
So my goal with the book is to do what they did for me, which is to create this play ripple, like for me sending this intention into the world to reverberate through other people's lives, to encourage them to practice playfulness in their day-to-day and bring it into the lives of the people around them. So because when we approach life with more playfulness, we open more creativity, connection, and joy for not just ourselves, but the people in our lives and the world at large. So that is my intention, to anoint you, an envoy of the Playful Way and spread play ripples.
I want you to, whenever that little voice comes in, because she's annoying and cute and whatever, but the voice when she comes in that she's afraid that whatever your work is going to hurt someone, I want you to replay what you just said.
Okay.
Like
accepted.
Yeah, like replay what you just said, because that needs to be out in the world. Sorry. I'm so sorry to that voice, but like, shh. Like, wow. Thank you.
Let's all to the voice in our head with love. Shh.
Yeah. It's like you can be here, but
just take a little nap.
Take a nap. Oh my gosh, yes.
Nap.
I love this. Thank you so much for just doing what you're doing and actually leading the way in this. Thank you for everything that it took to get here. Not easy at all. And I see you and I thank you, and I'm excited for the world to see this, and it's already doing ripples. So thank you.
Thanks for playing.
Another one in the books.
Wow, so fun.